Let me go
And
through a couple things that just first of all just reintroduce you. You're talking with me. I'm Frank Schaeffer. This is In Conversation with Frank Schaeffer, and my guest is Stephen Beschloss. And to use a kind of a European term, you are, I think, the quintessential public intellectual, if I could put it that way, and a political commentator as well. I want to go to worst case stuff a little bit. Let's just take it as a given that we understand who Trump is, that this is basically Trump University all the way down, if you want to put it that way in terms of character.
yeah,
Um, it seems to me, as someone who grew up in Europe and went to schools in England, et cetera, have a little bit of an eye on the international climate, that when you have the ex-British Secretary of Defense, the equivalent of Secretary of Defense, the head of the British Army, the one, not this one, but the last one, saying that the UK need to gear up for a potential war with Russia based on the fact that he's looking ahead to a potential Trump presidency where we drop out of NATO. Let me put it really mildly, something's going on. So for a minute, let's just talk about the ramifications of a second Trump term as you see it. You, Stephen Beschloss, not just out there, but how do you see this? Because whether it's NATO or what happens to Ukraine or our alliances across the world or Taiwan or our own country's democracy, freedom of speech as we understand it, when this vengeful little guy takes over again, if he does, how do you see it shaking out in the big picture across the board, taken as read who he is?
yeah. Well, we've seen over and over and over. Let's go back to 2018 when he betrayed America in Helsinki and stood by Putin and said that he believes Putin over 17 U.S. intelligence agencies. He gave us an up close and personal example on the stage there with Putin. That his alliances go there, and we've seen in recent days and weeks. I mean, he's been touting the brilliance and the viciousn's of people like Viktor Orban and Xi in China and Kim Jong-un. I mean, he's made it clear that those are the people that he admires. Those are the strong men that represent the kind of leadership that he admires. And this is part and parcel of somebody who has no we've seen it obviously for a long time. Him has no commitment to democracy, surely not to the peaceful transfer of power, and surely not to free and fair elections. He's already talking about the next elections are likely to be. We're in still in January, and he's already talking about that the coming election is going to be rigged. Which sounds like a setup for whatever happens, assuming he's the nominee, which seems like it's inevitable. This is where we're going to end up, that it will not be accepted, and he'll do what he can to tap into his population of aggrieved people to try to create bedlam of one sort or another. But if we went back, and I'm going to go back to your point about 1930s Germany. I mean, I think over the time of his presidency, I really hesitated, talking about Hitler, talking about Nazi Germany, trying to make the connections, because I think once you go into that space, it's hard to pull back, and it's it's a very powerful, dangerous place to go if it's not true, right? If it's not sure. And I think what's happened in the last let's just say the last year, he's made it clear that what he's after is a dictatorship. What he's after is ultimate power, impunity, and to use a presidency for retribution. I mean, he's made that absolutely clear, and he's it's not just this one guy who we can talk about how competent or not competent he is, but now there's a whole network of right-wing organizations like the Heritage Foundation and this Project 25 and Agenda 47, and this whole collection of people who are building an infrastructure which is based on these ideas that have been, they're not hiding it. They've been extremely open, rounding up millions of migrants, deporting them without due process, ending an independent judiciary, ending a nonpartisan civil service, hiring loyalists and demanding fealty, demanding, a presidential administrations with total immunity, which allows him to do anything, right up to shooting somebody on Fifth Avenue if he feels like it.
Yeah.
These are, hysterical imaginings by people on the left. These have been articulated by Trump and his enablers.
Yeah.
And so, I think in my view, we're in a dangerous place, not just because of that. And I think most people, I continue to believe most people do support democracy and don't want that future. But I think we're suffering from the lack of imagination, the lack of social imagination, both about what that Trump administration could really look like. And on the other hand, the lack of imagination about what, Biden and a commitment to democracy and to a better America could look like, and where those, if you will, competing visions of the future are fueling people's commitment and actions.